Hello guys, and welcome back to another MCreator procedure tutorial. So today what we're going to be looking at is this particular block, which can be found under the flow control and then if then else. So this one is a very unique block as it can set a direct value to a certain type of thing that's getting a value. So for example, if we go into our variables, we can see that down here we can say set value, and then we can actually put this on here and we can basically set values based on that. So that will allow us to basically set values depending on certain things. Now this does not stack with the other values like this. As you can see down here, we get an error saying that the block cannot be nested within the same output. So you can't actually get this and stack this in multiple times. This will actually cause an error and you won't be able to save your procedure. So that won't work, but you can set certain values. Like for example, numbers, we can set a value from then and else, and then basically pass this over to an index. And then if we run this before we print out the message with our index, then we'll be able to see if the time is 1, if it's day, 0, if it's night. Now with the nested values, if you need to stack it, then what I would suggest doing is just using a regular if statement and then using a and or operation to basically build up your conditions that way. That's more what it's designed for when you're making complex ones compared to if you're just sending a very specific value. This does work with other logic too. We can basically do directions, I'm pretty sure, and other logic as well. So if we were to set the logic here, we can set down and maybe up, and that will allow us to run a certain logic based on our condition here. And then we could basically go ahead and return that value. Now this won't actually work with other blocks that don't support that particular value. So for example, directions do not stack onto numbers because they're not the same thing. But if we had a particular block like this, we can actually store that in here and then test, for example, if the direction is up. So it does give you a little bit of freedom to do more simpler if statements without needing to really develop a whole procedure. But there are some rare cases where this won't be acceptable for the actual editor and Java to actually work within those boundaries. And that's where you would basically make conditions like testing if a certain value is maybe day, and then running a certain thing based on that. So basically setting a value and then passing it over to a variable and then testing later on what you need. So let's go ahead and just quickly test this particular one right here since I have it all set up. And we'll go ahead and just clean up the unused blocks here. So what this will actually do is we're testing if the world is currently day. If it is day, then it will return 1. If it is night, then it will return 0. This index is then passed over to this send message to player, which will print out either 1 or 0, depending on what this part right here happened. And lastly, we're not putting it on the action bar so we can see the result long term. So let's go ahead and save this and pop into game. All right, so we're in game, and let's go ahead and right click on a block. We can see the index is 1. Let's go ahead and change that time to night, and you can see the index is now 0. Let's turn it back to day and test one more time. We can see the index is 1. So that's basically it in a nutshell. It's a very useful block in very specific cases. It can be useful when you need to actually set a value depending on a certain condition. There might be case scenarios where this will become more useful with your specific script, but it's rarely for what I usually work on. What I usually use is just a regular if statement and then make my conditions based on that, because I know that it will basically allow me to do pretty much anything that I need. So other than that, if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.